about rocks.
Rocks and they were also talking about ET commentary.
Yeah.
Fucking.
They talked about a lot, to be honest. They talked about what the fuck? How do you pronounce that?
I know. Go Beckley Tepe. Go Beckley Tepe. Yeah. That's it.
Yes. Okay, they talked about
that was a tongue twister every time, man.
Alright, welcome back. Welcome back to Hindsight 2020. Don't forget to think about your year, your month, your week, your day, but don't regret
none of it.
None of that. Today we're talking about a podcast that was filmed 3 years ago, so some of the information in it is a little bit outdated. I was actually watching a Robert Schoch podcast after I watched this, where they were Robert Schoch and Joe were actually talking about some of the info in this podcast and how some of it had already been proven outdated. However, that's not the reason why we're talking about it. We're talking about it because it's a great podcast. There's a lot of cool info in it, and it's entertaining. Mm-hmm. It's pretty fucking entertaining.
I think that is like a pretty prime example of quote unquote mainstream versus, skeptical or challenging the mainstream, or some people that are on the forefront of science that are challenging what everyone else is saying with almost credibility, but still having to deal with the whole mainstream being it's one viewed way, or whatever, or how however you want to view it, because a lot of people don't even see it as a one view. The skeptic didn't see it as mainstream being really a one viewed way. It's it just has to evolve because that's how science is, and it's
bro, this dude was so crazy to me. So we're talking about Michael Shermer. He was the skeptic in the podcast, and Joe had Randall, Carlson, and Graham Hancock on a bunch of other times to talk about their different theories about possible impacts in the Younger Dryas period, which is a period between 12,800 and 11,600 years ago, right? I don't think it's BC. I think it's years ago. So it would be in the 9,000 BC range, where the climate dramatically shifted. And in this time period, a lot of animals went extinct. We used to have really big sloths, lions, woolly mammoths, huge bears, and a bunch of other shit, platypus, tigers, beavers, all in the North American and I think South American landscape. And the common theory that a lot of people tout is that over time, humans came across the Bering Land Straits from Russia to Alaska, came down into the Americas, and slaughtered all of these giant animals. These animals were huge. Think of a giraffe, think of a motherfucking elephant, and that's how big these lions and fucking bears and they were bigger than what we see today.
Yeah, bigger versions of what we see today.
Bigger versions of what we see today.
Monstrous versions that you wouldn't want to be, you wouldn't want to be messing with. I mean, obviously for hunting reasons, you might hunt a couple, but from what they were presenting, it doesn't the facts, presented doesn't seem like it would the humans would play that huge of a role that they would kill literally every single animal in existence.
Millions of animals.
With no environment, environmental factor that could have played, part in that. It's just purely humans. It's that shit's crazy to me, dude. You can't even have that does sound pretty plausible. Let me
he didn't even say that, and that was the craziest part. So they were talking about this, and Graham and Randall are both two different sides of kind of the same argument. Randall's arguing more from a geology side, how there's all sorts of impact proxies from this time period of 12,800 to 11,600, where there's evidence of some calamity that would explain why there was such a dramatic climate change in the 12,800 range, and again at the 11,600 range, which would have made life on the planet really hard to weather at that time. There was so much fluctuation of rising water and changing of temperature that unless you were really equipped to deal with that over that 1,000 years, there would be a lot of suffering, a lot of famine, a lot of drought, a lot of flooding, and that's why they have come up with this hypothesis. There's a whole team of scientists working on a comet, not even a comet, but an impact study, and that was the whole reason for this podcast in the first place, was to have Michael Shermer, the skeptic, on to try to debunk everything that Randall and Graham have been working on. Graham comes from more of the author side, like he puts together different pieces of puzzles from, ancient texts and different things that fringe scientists are working on to try to combat the mainstream.
But when he has a voice for himself, a lot of the shit that people deem fringe actually end up being pretty credible on his end. Like he does when I think a lot of things do just get misquoted by him, or like just because it isn't the mainstream, like you go look it up on Wikipedia and you can like deem it as like fringe or like something like that, But like
I just meant fringe, like the people that are working on it aren't accepted by the mainstream.
I know, but I want to for someone, So for someone that's like trying to figure out who these people are and stuff like that. It's just like, because we know we know that he's fucking on this shit, but like a lot of exactly.
We fuck with Graham Hancock.
Yeah, I do really. We do, but fuck.
Yeah, no, I love that man's mind.
But yeah, a lot of mainstream. But then see what really like irks both of that, like all three of these men and Joe Rogan even, is like what really is the mainstream when you get down to it, because these are the men in the mainstream, like theskeptic.com, which would publish, like everything that would be wrong with anybody trying to challenge a mainstream. This is the dude challenging the mainstream, and then there's dudes that are actually geologists in the mainstream, so it's like that was the end all be all for science, that was a crazy debate, dude.
But on the side of Randall and Graham, they were willing to go point for point.
Exactly.
On the side of the skeptic Michael Shermer, he kept on, and Joe even called him out at one point in the podcast and said, respond specifically to the specific thing that he just said. Because you keep on saying all the time they get it wrong. All the time they're miss carbon-14 dating. They're not calibrating the age of shit correctly. And you're pretty much just muddying the water because you're not responding to his specific point. Or that one time where he's like, oh yeah, this dude wrote a book about humans having been here 10 million years on the planet. And all his evidence was all speculation and all negative evidence. And yeah, Graham, that's what you're doing too.
Yeah, I think Graham got pretty offended by that.
Because it's not negative evidence. And the dude hadn't even researched what it is that Graham's evidence was.
Exactly.
Like the Robert Schoch and Sphinx correlation with the runny, the thousands of years of rain on the Sphinx.
The Sphinx, the base of the Sphinx, and running down like the body. Yeah,
and he didn't know nothing about that, but he was contesting it. And then his person that wrote the article against Graham, which was like the whole reason for this podcast, was just like misquoting him on every level, misreporting information on every level. That shit was fucking crazy, bro.
So what this Michael Shermer dude, okay, a little bit of a background is he runs skeptic.com. I'm pretty sure he is the main skeptic. He's the main skeptic, and he has people under him that will publish papers, or I think they have to be professionals. Yeah, like teachers and scientists and stuff, and they post what people are trying to challenge in the mainstream and why it's pretty much just a bunch of baloney. Like a lot of the time it seems like pretty demeaning, like malicious, like how they talk about it, because how he was depicting Graham in his work was like, you're what did he say, like at
you're
one point,
duping the public, conning the public.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, that's language that why would you say that when I'm not presenting false evidence. I'm presenting evidence that you don't per se like it's not per se something that you like or accept.
Yeah, exactly. He kept on driving home that negative evidence point. He's saying, you scientists can't explain this, this, and this, and because you can't explain this, that's my argument. And that's not what Graham was doing at all, bro. He actually knew the fucking geology side of shit that Randall was talking about. He knew the astrological side, or not astrological, astronomical side.
Both. He did. He does know both. You're right.
Yeah, but he didn't bring astrology into it because he would have he wouldn't even be able to have that conversation with Michael.
Well, kind of. I mean, the spring equinox. I mean, the fucking the Leo setting and all that stuff. That's astrology.
Oh, I thought that's is that what he was saying? Like it's an equinoctial marker?
Yeah.
And the equinox track the signs of the zodiac?
Yeah, that sounds like the zodiac on astrology. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, my bad.
But yeah, no, because people want to deem astrology pseudoscience, but pseudoscience when you're maybe getting into the effects of when you're getting into, I was born on this day, so this does this to me. But even when we got into it, the sun does, all those electric waves end up affecting us ultimately. But besides that, it's just a constellation to see where the sun sets in certain times of how the Earth is positioned in space.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all it is.
It's a tracker.
Exactly.
It tracks things.
It's not pseudoscience in that, you know.
In that sense.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, that was pretty wild when he kept on, like, driving that home. Like, you have no proof. The burden of proof is on the person challenging the mainstream, and you have no proof. Oh, have you heard of Robert Schoch and the Sphinx? Oh, no, I don't know nothing about that. Well, what do you mean? You're contesting me, and you don't know shit about what I'm saying. So how are you going to contest me?
Exactly. Here's another thing. When he was talking about, when Michael Shermer, excuse me, I don't want to be vague. Michael Shermer was talking about, what's it called? Damn, I lost my train of thought. What were we just talking about? Pseudoscience and
astrology.
What was his argument?
For which point? The Clovis, Göbekli Tepe, the pyramids. There's different.
No,
things.
I was gonna add on to something that you were literally just talking about, but I kind of lost my. It was
it's
like,
all good.
We'll just keep on going. What I did want to bring up is that he did bring. Okay, so he said that in college he's heard of the Black Egyptian hypothesis. He was putting that in the same category as Piltdown Man and a bunch of other like debunked science, but like. It's crazy because you can. I mean, I could do a whole podcast on proving that the Egyptians had black, that were black or different colors at least, but like there were black Egyptians, which is like what the fuck, like you have to prove that.
That's what Nubia is.
The Nubian kings were some of the first pharaohs. Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what it is.
But anyway, yeah, that was weird that he called that a pseudoscience, which that was the beginning of the podcast.
Or alternative archaeology.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, so we're getting to Göbekli. How do you say it? Göbekli Tepe.
Göbekli Tepe.
Which means pot-bellied hill.
Yes, just like my pot-bellied pig.
Yep. Shout out Pim Pim. So that is like it's a site that they found in, I believe it's Turkey.
Yes.
Turkey. And we talked about it before on the podcast, but
fucking crazy.
It is a site. It is probably, they say it's one of the biggest megalithic sites, but they haven't been able to fully excavate it. Yeah, exactly.
Because funding in foreign countries is damn near impossible. When I went to Egypt, bro, we were at the city of Memphis, the old city of Memphis, and they showed me this area of land that was fenced off. It had to have been a good couple miles in perimeter. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh yeah, under all of that is other stuff. We just we don't have money to excavate it. We don't have money to excavate it.
Yeah, but dude, same thing with Robert Schoch though. Robert Schoch wanted to dig under the Sphinx, remember? And he wanted to get funded, but they didn't even let him.
No, they wouldn't let him.
Exactly. So there's some stipulations behind all that. Yeah, exactly. It might not even be that they don't have the funding because you don't need. Let's be real. You don't need that much funding to dig. You
just need to pay the people digging.
Exactly.
But Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah, Göbekli Tepe. We'll get it right. Göbekli Tepe is they found what you can explain what the megalithic structures they have in there. They have
they have 20-foot tall T-shaped pillars with three-dimensional carvings that were engraved on the pillars by carving out around the drawing rather than carving in, which shows a sign of intelligence. And this site dates back to approximately 11,600 BC.
Around the time that we're talking about.
Around the exact Younger Dryas time that we're talking about, which at that time, before they found Göbekli Tepe in the 1990s, it was assumed that hunter-gatherers had no ability to create structures of this size. And the part that's excavated of Göbekli Tepe right now is on the scale of Stonehenge. And then there's 50 times more of that that's still underneath the ground.
Exactly.
And so the strength of the argument resides in the fact with lining up some different points that Graham was making. He was lining up that 11,600 years ago, the Younger Dryas was the climate shift. He's lining up that Plato can actually pinpoint the exact 11,600 years ago when the fall of Atlantis was. And he was lining up all these things. He also related it to the older date of the Sphinx. The Sphinx being a possible equinoctial marker for the sign of Leo.
Good job on that.
11,600 years ago was when Earth was in the time of Leo, and the Sphinx is a lion, and it points to that place in the sky in the spring equinox when it lines up with Leo. Mm-hmm. So he was using all this to build a case, and then of course Randall comes in, and then he has the geology to back it up with certain flood markers and other things, and Göbekli Tepe is what was able to glue this whole theory together for them, because up until they had Göbekli Tepe, they didn't have any proof that there was anything built that long ago of this nature. Mm-hmm. And where Michael Shermer was concerned, he's like, well, why are you trying to pin it on a lost civilization when you could just say that we were wrong about hunter-gatherers? And Joe is like the whole time like, well, you're making an assumption by saying that you think it's just hunter-gatherers. You're speculating by saying that. And it makes a whole lot more sense that maybe there was some sort of a more advanced people back
or
then.
just as equal sense, you know?
Sense.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just like it's an equal argument to present that these people you're gonna call them hunter gatherers, but then they had the advance. Here's what was irking me the whole time, and I also remember what I was gonna talk about, so that's cool.
Good,
because from what you were talking about. But here's what irks me is fucking that they fucking he calls it like art, like pseudo or what do you call it? Alternative archaeology. Yeah, or like that he kept on saying, what can we prove that's advanced about these people? The stonemasonry. What the fuck? Like, you know, that's what you know, Graham's argument was, like, it's the site itself, you know, and like, exactly, bro. Like,
where's the tools? Where's the trash, bitch?
Regardless, the site's there. You build that right now with the tools we have to that specific, you know, like, oh, and you can say, I'm not that artistic, I don't do that stuff, but it's like, okay, but.
And he kept comparing it to cave paintings. A site that's potentially 50 times bigger than Stonehenge, the largest megalithic site in the world, and you're comparing it to a cave painting with a 3-dimensional drawing.
Exactly. And
it seems like he's trolling the whole time.
Those are 3-dimensional sculptures, you know, like that's on a whole different level, bro.
11,600 years ago. We accredit Sumer, which is like 5,000 BC,
with like the first writings. Yeah,
and
exactly.
This is 9,000 BC.
Exactly. But what I was gonna say is, remember when we were talking about how skeptics, which is perfect, he's a skeptic, will deny any claims of something being aligned with true north, true south, like, you know, like, oh, those are all claims, you know, like, prove it, you know, but Graham will bring those type of things, like, that's what...
And he'll be like, you're finding a pattern in something that these people would...
That's what I was going to bring up. It's like, that's the skeptic, like, you know, logic behind it.
You're finding a pattern. You're finding it, like...
Yeah, let's go with that pattern. Are you mentally challenged? Like, what the fuck? That's how mysteries get solved, you know? That's how people in crime investigations find things. They find patterns and things, and they go with the evidence. Like, what? That shit blew my mind.
And the fact that all the megalithic structures around the world are so fucking similar. I don't know. Another point that... My bad. Get your point.
No. That was it. Okay. Yeah, that people are accepted. Like, remember when we were talking about all the different... correlations with the Great Pyramids and, you know, like 432 and stuff, but when I've looked up, like, you know, people that try to go against that type of information, and all they can say is like, oh, it's not 432, it's 432.8. You know, yeah, exactly. You're finding a pattern in something that shouldn't be. Like, you're not doing the exact fucking... It's like, no, they're not. That it's... You're trying to, like, you're trying to make a pattern not seem plausible as, like, you know, evidence of something bigger than it is, you know, when... Like, it's like a fingerprint of, you know, like, it's like to me, things like that show sophistication and advancement, you know, that shows, like, I feel like that shows consciousness, that shows, like what I think we've talked about it before, like, throwing a fucking box of Legos on the ground, it's not just going to magically create, like, you know, like a building or something, but the consciousness of your mind will create the building, you know, over time, so, like, everything comes from, you know, some sort of consciousness, whether it be this microphone I'm talking into, whether it be this wood, you know, like, it all forms in, like, some sort of consciousness, which is, like, you have to give it some credit, you know, you have to give this even inanimate object some sort of credit for being themselves, you know, like, for being itself at the end of the day, you know.
He's not even impressed by the Great Pyramids.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what's funny about what Graham was talking about? I had not watched that podcast when I had went to Egypt, and I saw exactly what he saw. I don't know if you remember when I came back, I had a pyramid, I had a picture of the Zoser pyramid in Saqqara. Mm-hmm. I had a picture of the 5th and 6th dynasty pyramids, 6 being Teti. I don't know what the other ones are. And I literally showed everyone when I came back that, okay, here's this 3rd dynasty pyramid. It's supposed to be the first one, and it's made really poorly. It's still there, but it's made poorly. Then you have the 5th and the 6th dynasty. 5th is completely crumbled. Mm-hmm. 6th is like a sand hill.
It's like a hill, yeah, exactly.
And then on the inside, you can walk down, and it's still there on the inside, but it's a sand hill. And then they drive you over to fucking the Giza Strip, and there's 3 mountains. And like I asked the guy, I was like, okay, so I could see the progression from 3 to 4. So what happened with 5 and 6? Oh, they did not have money. They didn't have money. What do you, like? Okay, I get that they didn't have money because, like, obviously you need a division of labor and money to. But like, where did the technology go? Because even their like, you don't need to have money to build a smaller structure and make it last. You need to have the knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly.
And that is exactly what Graham said. I didn't even need him to say it for me to see it. When I saw it.
Exactly.
I saw that shit.
You can go, yeah, exactly.
I saw that shit, and Michael Shermer's never even been there. That's what,
exactly. He was like, have you ever been there? Can you even, like, speak from, like, you know, personal, like, you know, examples of
or any of your skeptics? Have any of your skeptics been to this place?
That's amazing, right?
I appreciate mainstream scientists. I appreciate his willingness to, like, toe the line and, like, hold truth accountable. But he's not doing that. He was not doing that. He was making personal comparisons. He was literally low-key sneak dissing the entire time, and he wouldn't even know what that word means. That means by the language that he's using, he's dissing someone without even, like, directly trying to diss them.
It's a subliminal diss.
It's like calling him a fucking alternative guy. Oh, these guys, they don't have enough time. What do you mean they don't have enough time? These guys have built a body of evidence. They're not just saying, oh, take a look at this. I think I figured out Einstein's equations and why he was wrong. Look at my paper. They have a convergence of evidence, a fucking team of, you know, they have hella teams of people going out and doing stuff. Like, their friends that are doing the impact research, those are scientists that are doing that on their own. They're just pulling information from those scientists, and they don't have any dog in the fight.
Exactly.
What dog in the fight?
They're just trying to present something that they've
present information.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any other? The Clovis stuff was getting me angry too. When Graham's like,
okay, explain. Okay, what is Clovis exactly? Was that supposed to be the first site that people came?
Yes. So North America, or I think in the Americas, the Clovis site is the first sign of, like, quote unquote,
that we
like,
thought at first.
At first, modern day humans with spear tips, like hunting and, like, doing shit in a more advanced way. And then they started to find things like 24,000 years prior, a horse, like, burial ground where, like, humans were, like, killing and eating horses and other stuff. I'm not really adept to the information, but if you want, we're gonna put the link to the podcast so you can go watch it too. But the whole time that they were having the conversation, this motherfucker wasn't even addressing what Graham was telling him. Like, he's like, so what about this? What do you think about this? Well, my friends in archaeology tell me that sometimes things are misdated. But he's like, what about this? Like, this isn't 20 years ago when someone could have possibly misdated. This is right now. This is in nature. This is in fucking
Smithsonian.
The Smithsonian. Mm-hmm. You're telling me you disagree with Smithsonian? Like,
he's like, I do, yeah, me too. But
Graham's like, I disagree with them sometimes too, but, like, this is mainstream science. It's proposing these theories, and you're over here saying no archaeologist can get behind this. It's like and Joe called him out. He's like, you just want to be right. You just want to be right. You didn't even look at the article, like, blah, 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 blah. You didn't even. And when his homie got on there and started dissing Graham, I wanted to go to bat, bro.
You wanted to be there with Graham and
I wanted to be right there. And Graham was holding it down the whole time, calling that fool a punk. Like, he literally says in his book, Jose Gamarro, I don't like his theory of gravitation, but his theory about specific megalithic structure that they were talking about, I don't remember exactly which one, I appreciate that. And the motherfucker that was over the phone was like, but you don't even understand Newton physics. And Graham's like, I literally, in my book, say, I don't want to have anything to do with his theories about gravity. So what do you mean I don't understand Newton's physics? I'm not talking about that.
Exactly.
Just because Jose Gamarro says something that I like over here doesn't mean that I appreciate what he says over there. And then that dude was just stuck on it.
And then he kept on talking about Newton's physics, which, by the way, Newton's physics gets proven to be not, always correct all the time. They prove that, like, laws can be bent or broken, like that. Exactly. It's not always just that the law of gravity just governs everything, But
he just wanted to be right.
He's
like, how can I believe you when you said that 2012 everyone was going to die? How can I believe you when you used to think the Earth's crust was the reason for the catastrophes, and now you think it's an impact? Oh, well, am I not allowed to grow? Am I not allowed to change my mind in 20 years? Am I not allowed to, like, come to a new conclusion and, like, expand myself? Like, what, you're holding me to something I said when I was 20 years younger?
That's a long time. Think about 20 years ago. You were only like 3 years old.
That fool's just a pussy that would never speak his own mind. He's only going to toe the fucking mainstream line.
Exactly.
He was getting all panties out of shape, bent out of shape about everything. And then at the end, they're like, oh, yeah, like, I'll send you papers. You send me papers. I'm like, you got to be like, nah, fuck that fool. That's how I would be.
No, but see, that's not going to get any, like, if we really want to change the scientific view of things,
I know.
Like,
you got to operate like you're at work.
Exactly, because...
You got to operate like you're at work.
Because even Graham lost character a couple of times, like, but I could tell why, like, obviously he was getting his character, deformed, like, obviously I would fucking lose my character, like, I would fucking speak out.
You didn't read the fucking paper, Michael.
Yeah.
You didn't read the fucking paper. Fuck you.
Not my problem. I can't even do it.
Yo, not my problem. I've listened to it so many times. Not my problem.
Bro, I start dying every time he says it. I'm like,
because he's right. Here's the information. The fact that it's there, you can't change that. Not my problem. What do you mean? What the fuck do you mean?
And every time they would get proved wrong, it'd be one of these things where it'd be like, okay, so where is your lost city of Atlantis? It's supposed to be in the Pacific Ocean. It's like, that's what he said. Not my problem. It's like, bro, what are you? Okay, I'm talking about a lore that people are talking, that Plato was talking about that kind of makes sense with what the geologists are talking about.
I'm not saying that this is real. I'm saying, isn't it funny that they're talking about this and they're right on the money with the date and everything, and then we're finding this? This is all I'm saying. Well, moving from shock just to Egypt in general, Michael Shermer couldn't even, like, Graham asked him, find one contemporary, like, drawing or text that mentions the Egyptians of the Khufu era talking about the construction of the Sphinx. You can't, because it's not there. They don't talk about the Sphinx. The only thing that mentions the Sphinx is the little tablet in front of the Sphinx. It's like Khafre's dream or something. And it mentions that the Sphinx came to him in a dream, but it doesn't talk about them making the Sphinx. Mm-hmm. The Sphinx, in everything that you can see in their culture, was probably already there. Because they were there in the time of Taurus, and everything that they did was bulls. So why did they, like Graham making the point, why did they put a lion in the time of the bull? They wouldn't.
Exactly.
They have never done anything out of line before. Yeah, the Egyptians were exact.
They're insane, bro.
And they talk about the land of Chem. They talk about the older time.
It's crazy.
And Michael knows nothing about that.
I know.
So why are you arguing? You learn about it and then argue.
Because it's already been proven by his other colleagues that are, proven. So it's like, why even dive into it when I know I have friends that can back me up and basically prove you wrong? It's one of those things. And it's like, yes and no, but like, where are your Egyptologist friends? Because, okay, this is what he kept on saying too. There's 20 people that say this, and then you're just this one anomaly, like there's 20, like what, and everybody kept on saying, what 20 people? Give me the sources.
What are all these things that you've debunked? What are all these instances where people were wrong? He just sounded like he was just dissing the whole time.
But here's the thing. He did keep his composure, He didn't really get like too out of line and angry,
and Graham did for sure.
Yeah, and he did end up changing it. So, like saying he would change his stuff. So, like, I do respect him for that.
I didn't respect his homie. His homie was getting out of line, too. His homie stepped out of character. But if I was Graham and someone wrote some shit like that about me, I'd be pissed, too.
Mm-hmm. I know. Especially when, like, it's like, bro, okay, then I can, what are you contributing to the whole, besides skeptic.com, like, what do you guys actually contribute, and can I peer review your work and see, like, where you're going with, like, some of your work, or are you just going to sit in the back of the sidelines and judge people in the forefront, actually
trying to do something new? But I think they're just towing the line.
Mm-hmm. It is what they're doing, but it's kind of like you said, it's always needed for those people to toe the line, but it's crazy to think that those are the people that are really
they're not the open-minded people towing the line.
They're not even, it's not
like,
even,
I don't want to admit that something else is really the history, but if the evidence follows to this point that I'm proven wrong, then I will change my mind. Mm-hmm. He didn't have that kind of attitude at all. At all. And that's actually funny because Robert Schoch says that in his podcast that we're going to get into on another time. He's like, my mom and my grandma, even though I wanted to go into like mainstream science and geology and all that, they always taught me that if there's evidence, you follow it and you find the truth. Nothing else matters.
Exactly.
Nothing else matters.
Oh, okay, yeah. Here's some other. I think it's kind of like Joe was saying. It's kind of weird and like almost demoralizing, or like it's weird to put them in the category of hunter gatherers, or calling the people. I mean, even after like just because of like how evolution, or like how we think the humans or whatever have evolved over time, that had to have been a primitive race of beings that Joe kept on saying, so we're agreeing they're humans. We're agreeing they're humans the whole time. And that shit was funny as fuck to me. I kept on dying. I was like, yes, we're agreeing they're humans. Okay, bro. No one's saying they're aliens. Like, we get it. We get they're humans. And but it's like,
we agree.
Why do we have to call them? Yeah, what are you gonna say?
We agree that that's all we know.
Yeah, exactly. We agree that humans would be the most capable of doing that, right? Because
we have no proof or evidence to show anything else. That doesn't mean nothing else happened.
Exactly.
We just don't have any evidence for it.
Exactly. But it's like, why do they have to be hunter gatherers? And this is what even fucking Shermer was saying, like, oh, they were doing cave art, so they had the capabilities of being, of thinking intelligently and like a problem solving. It's like,
I like your Shermer face, bro.
Because it's like you just like you're not regurgitating like bullshit. It's like, but it's like, dude. Okay, but why do you gotta call them hunter-gatherers? They're the same as, they're just humans, bro. Like, what the fuck?
They were calling them hunter-gatherers because they didn't think they could be advanced.
That's what I'm saying, exactly. By calling them
just hunting and gathering.
They don't know anything else. They don't have they can't come together as a civilized people because there's no evidence.
Because they're not getting a bald fade. They're not getting their pussy hair trimmed. They're not doing any of that. They're not advanced. And
all we can find is a big hand rock, which really set off Graham. Remember that when he said, we can't even find really tools. All we find is really like a big hand rock. He's like,
when he was talking about the 130,000-year-old Mastodon site in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
that's what he's trying to interject that shit randomly sometimes, we'll be like, what the fuck, we're not even talking about that, like,
exactly. He didn't want to stay on topic. If he had, he would have lost.
Exactly.
He can win if he keeps like just being vague about shit and just calling upon authority. That's what he was doing the whole time. Appeal to futility. Well, we're not going to look into this because I already know that that's bullshit. Appeal to futility. There's no point in even looking in this. Oh, my colleagues have already done this work. I trust them. Appeal to fucking futility.
Exactly. My colleagues have It's like, dog. But Graham's doing extra work, and so is fucking Randall. Like, literally showing you that this stuff could be different. And then I thought it was funny how the two, Randall and what was the guy's name? Mark something? The guy that was arguing with him. They kept on talking about what were they talking? They're like, no, that's signs of glacial melting. It's like, no, that's signs of an impact. And like Randy, he's like, you think it's 40 floods? They kept on going. I was like, 40 floods? What are you guys even talking about?
I know that. And then that guy was like, I think we're getting a little too advanced for this audience. But I was following. Yeah, I was following for sure. They kept talking about the difference between like a Esther and like a Grimoire. Blah 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 blah. I don't even know. They were talking about like,
what is that? See, I
don't even know. The Grimoire I made up. The Esther was like.
It sounded right, bro. To be honest, what the fuck?
Well, because they could use any word. It's like double speak. Those words mean some other shit to them.
Okay, that's the problem I think with like people being like just normal people trying to go through life, and then like these mainstream or even like smarter scientists, and then this whole language that it's the same. It's English, but sometimes I bet you like 50% of the population would understand like half of the words those fools are saying, because of just the elongation, like.
They would just have to be an academic to understand that podcast, or someone that's adept to reading stuff in academia like us. We're not academics, but we're like.
Yeah, but we keep up enough to like, kind of, even when you don't know exactly what a word means, you can kind of like piece it together from, the context, basically, which is, I forget what I don't know what I was reading.
Oh, my bad. Keep going. What? Sorry, I thought you were going to.
Oh no! Oh yeah, but it was something about a word is only has its usage in context. I don't know what it was in, but like that totally makes sense. Like nothing really is a word until like there's a context around the word to like to give it the give it the context or whatever. But anyway, getting back to what were we talking about?
We're talking about how the two geologists were going at it with their geology speak.
Yeah, and how basically you would have to be you'd have to be up to like just on vocabulary to even keep up with what they're talking about. And that's even like that's like,
and you'd have to know what the meanings of those vocabulary were, even if you knew what it is that thing looked like. You'd have to know how it, like, specifically about rocks or, like, impact. I don't even know how to.
Exactly.
It's in my mind. You know what? You know what? It's in my mind, and I just cannot regurgitate it.
Because you don't have the words for it, bro. These are words that fucking we haven't studied, dude. That shit's crazy. You can explain it simply. You know, you can explain it in like super layman's terms, but
what I did follow was that Randall was down to ride. He was like, I've been to these places. I've seen how this looks. I know the difference between this and this. You say I don't know the difference. I've seen a Nestor and I've seen the glacial melting in proximity. I've seen that shit. So come here, bro. Let me take you and I'll show you how this fucking looks. He wasn't even willing to talk with Randall reasonably. He's like, oh, you think it was one line flood? We know it's 40.
We know. But you've never been to the site, and I have. Like, exactly,
I've flown over it 1,000,000 times.
Fucking...
Even our audience is probably like, yo.
Yeah, what are you guys even talking about? Whatever.
Go watch the podcast.
Anyway, the Easter Island shit was crazy. See, that's another thing, dude. It's like, oh, there were hunter-gatherers on Easter Island, and even Graham was like, you're going to call them hunter-gatherers? What are you even talking? See, you don't even know what you're talking about, you know? Like... It's amazing.
If you can walk across fucking Easter Island in 3 hours, what kind of animals are living on Easter Island?
You can watch a documentary. I watched a documentary on Easter Island. They weren't hunting or gathering. They were gathering, but they were fishing. They were fishing and they were catching birds, bro. They had birds. They were doing that. I don't think we give credit to, you know, like older civilizations that have the exact same, like what Michael Shermer did say was that they have the same brain capacity as us, you know, so it's possible that, like, you know, they could be possible of brain solving or like problem solving and shit, but it's like, exactly. So why are you just calling them hunter-gatherers? You can just call them modern day Homo sapien humans and fucking let's get on with it. They could have had an advance. Well, even what Graham was saying, that consider fucking oral traditions and consider fucking, you know, your memory being way stronger back then and people actually being able to retain information and us not being relying on writing, like how Thoth, you know, like the ancient writings of how Thoth created writing, and that might have been bad for humanity because it makes us like a little, you know, like it doesn't make us as...
It inflates our ego rather than us really retaining knowledge, because if we don't have the context to understand what the knowledge means, then it's floating in space.
Just exactly.
Or it could be used to do wrong. And I think that's a perfect example for what's going on today.
And yeah, I mean, we always talk about that shit, you know, like the Tower of Babel and like how, what the fuck, like why did God come and, you know, confound everyone's speech and like, you know, tear down the tower when like we all were like, you know, supposedly like together as like one. It's like, what the fuck does that even mean, bro? Like, if we were all having oral tradition where we fucking pass down the secret arts. And it doesn't necessarily have to be magic. You don't like that's what that fool didn't understand too. Like magic is almost like an advanced science, bro. When something is unexplainable to someone else, you can deem it as magic or the unseen. When cellular activity happens and you fucking heal yourself when you go to sleep or when you have a scar, that's magic, but it's really just cells working, you know. And like it's like there's the unseen that happens without you, you know, without anything really, like you know,
you can't really explain it.
Without consciousness, you know, it's like, but like, I didn't have to go take a needle and like sew my shit together, you know, like being alive will like eventually like something will heal unless I'm gonna die, you know, like unless it's a wound that's gonna kill me, you know, it'll eventually sew itself up. My cells will do it. I won't have to do it, you know. But I mean, there's, you know, you would get stitched up to like help the process, but like eventually your cells would do it naturally. So like to deem something as magical is this something that we used to call stuff that we couldn't explain. It's advanced science. It's chemistry. It's putting chemicals together. That's what they used to do with these herbs, you know, like that's what they deem as magic. But it was that now we just call it science, you know, because we can take these, we can literally isolate chemicals and like, you know, and put them with other chemicals and fucking make an atomic bomb and blow up a fucking...
Science is magic.
Exactly. And that's where he's not putting it together.
The more advanced the science gets, the more magical it'll even seem to us. A Neuralink is magic.
I don't even know what that is.
The Neuralink is that shit that Elon Musk is developing where they're going to drill a hole in someone's brain to test it out, put this Neuralink in, and instead of processing data in our brains at a rate of like a couple megabytes per second, it would enable us to be like a computer.
You were telling, that's what we were talking about last time. Okay,
like a terabyte per second.
Exactly.
Which is like 1,000 times, up to 1,000,000 times, probably faster. And like him and Joe were talking about it. They're like, what kind of human would want to go back to being a dumb old human after the Neuralink gets put in? Like what?
But what kind of human wants to get the Neuralink put in there? Let's go. Would you do that shit?
I don't know. I really don't at this point, bro.
We'd have to. I want to see it tested out or something, bro. I don't know.
Someone's got to be the first.
Dude, that's what I'm saying.
Someone's got to be the first. But anyway, if we could wrap up at least this part of the conversation, I feel like freestyling at this point. Michael Shermer needs to do more research. Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson, I hope they keep fucking blazing the trail, bro. I hope they keep blazing the trail. And
look more into crystal technologies. Because they don't believe in them. So, I mean, I get it. But, you know, we already did it. We did a whole podcast on that shit.
We did.
Fucking multiple floods, 40 floods. We did all that. Yeah, fucking. Oh, the guy that came on after had some pretty interesting, the Randall. Yeah.
Or the Impact guy.
Yeah, Impact man. Yeah, he was saying that they find a bunch of platinum, iridium, and I can't even read what I fucking wrote. But which is an indication of an ET impact, which we were talking about earlier, that he doesn't even necessarily, lean all the way towards
a comet.
Exactly, it's an extraterrestrial impact. So like we can't even really pinpoint exactly what it is, but we can say that there are high levels of platinum and iridium all over the world. Like at a certain crust, like a layer. So
from
time period, exactly.
And the cool thing that Robert Schoch said in his podcast with Joe, which we're going to, like I said, dive into, is he has this theory that solar flares could have been the actual cause of some of those anomalies or impact proxies, that there didn't even need to be an impact.
The solar flare, literally, holy fuck.
Can create the nanodiamonds.
Hey, I remember what we talked about when we were talking about solar. Exactly, the solar flares and sunspot activity that all literally affects us. Bro, that is magic right there, bro. Like, holy shit.
The thing that's supposedly 90 million miles away having a little hiccup. And boom, platinum, iridium, nanodiamond.
In microscopic amounts, right? Like it'd be but like that's like it would be in theory, like if it would be coming here, like if it was almost like it would, like you said, it wouldn't have to be a comet. It would just have to.
No. I think the heat creates it with the
elements.
It.
Yeah, okay, but it's the heat. It got traveled all the way. Yeah, that's pretty insane, dude.
And like,
wait, it gets created on the ground or in the air coming in, upon impact.
I don't even think there was an impact. I think that we'll have to obviously listen to what he said, but he breaks it down in the Joe Rogan podcast. He's like, no, this is commonly misunderstood to be an impact, and it could possibly be an impact, but here, the sun could actually do this too.
The sun's heat can just produce these things.
I don't know if the heat or the flare or
that is heat. I'm pretty sure, yeah.
But it can create some of the same things as an impact proxy.
That's fucking crazy. Yeah, no,
which would account for the fact that they haven't yet found the crater.
Exactly.
But does it matter if it's a comet or a solar flare? If it fucking wiped out all these things, created floods and all this shit, it's still biblical, bro.
And it's extraterrestrial.
Still extraterrestrial.
Either way, yeah, exactly.
And humans still couldn't kill millions of fucking Pleistocene lions and saber-toothed tigers and all that shit. That made no sense, bro. Makes no sense. And like Randall kept saying, is like, why would the humans hunt the predators that would literally fucking maul them? How?
Dude, I was thinking about it. Imagine being around that. Like, imagine being that type of, like, a hunter-gatherer, as I say, and just having to deal with saber-tooths and woolly mammoths at all times. Like, fuck, dude. That was
like American Africa. We got hairy elephants and tigers with big-ass teeth.
That would suck, dude. Like, yeah, I don't think that, unless we were that bold back then,
how would we have time to create Göbekli Tepe if we're dodging all these different... I know Göbekli Tepe's in Turkey, and that's not where the Pleistocene lion and the giant sloth and all that stuff were, but I think...
But they're calling them the same people, or like hunter-gatherers.
But I think that those big animals were on multiple continents. I think they said they were on 4 different continents, and they all went extinct at the same time.
Well, doesn't that make sense? Doesn't that make sense for there to be a bigger, Yeah.
So then we kept the lion in the African area, and it got killed off in the American area. We kept the elephants, we lost the mammoths. We kept tigers, but we lost the saber-tooths. The sloths became small and moved to South America. The beavers got small. Because these things were all like 10 feet fucking tall. These were monsters. These were literally fucking monsters. Fuck Bigfoot. I don't want to come across a fucking 10, 12-foot sloth, bro. What in the fuck?
And I mean, it's crazy because I think that like now they're like super lazy and shit, but I don't think they used to. You know, if they seen us, they probably climb down the tree real quick. You fucking snatch you, dude. Like,
they wouldn't even climb down, bro. If they're 12 feet tall,
just drop his arm down.
A lion. Imagine a Pleistocene lion was supposed to be like a fucking great white shark.
Oh my god.
Like 20 feet. Imagine. Fuck a mountain lion, bro. That's what happened. Mountain lion.
Exactly.
Boom.
Exactly.
Evolve. Bitch, I'm gonna make you small. That's what God or whatever said. Boom. Dude.
Hey, okay, and then I was also thinking about this. So I've been looking up like old or just dinosaurs and shit like that, you know? And I don't know if I've ever talked to you about it or just like the like how dragons and dinosaurs like are kind of
intertwined.
Yeah, exactly. And how it's kind of like you can get into the the mythical side of dragons, or you can get into the real side of dinosaurs. But they're either way, they're the ancient lizards that used to rule the world. You know, like either way, you know, like
didn't have to breathe fire. Maybe it just had hot ass fucking breath because it's big.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, who says it didn't breathe fire? You know, like that says. I mean, obviously, we can't prove that, but like, who's saying like it couldn't? But anyway, fucking so there's the sea dragon. There's a sea reptile. There's a sea dinosaur named Kronosaurus, and that's Kronos. You know, Kronos is the fucking Saturn. Yes. Yeah. And then there's
isn't Kronos also the dad of Zeus, of Poseidon and Hades?
Yeah, he's Father Time. Kronos is Father Time. And he's the leader of the Titans. I mean Zeus is the leader of the Titans. Sorry.
No, you're right.
No? Oh, is this Kronos?
Because the Titans is before the gods.
Okay. So,
in Greek mythology.
What do you mean?
In Greek mythology.
Oh, okay. But then there's also there's a winged fucking dinosaur. It was so they're called pterodactyls, you know? They're called pterosaurs. So like that's the category of a pterodactyl's under the pterosaur. Yeah. The biggest pterosaur that they've ever found, they named it Quetzalcoatlus. A winged serpent.
Quetzalcoatlus.
And you know who Quetzalcoatl is. Yeah. Dude,
the South American god.
Why are they going to name all these dinosaurs dragons after ancient gods? You know, like it's pretty interesting. I was getting into that shit. And like,
how big was Quetzalcoatlus?
Giraffe size. He looks pretty much like a dragon, bro. I mean, like the way they depict him, I'll pull him up right now. But
so wait, why is it so far-fetched?
It's not at all.
Why is it so far-fetched to think that a couple of these motherfuckers were just like hiding in the ruins and like the last of a dying breed?
Exactly.
Around the same times as humans were like developing.
And were and that whole thing about the shape-shifting dinosaurs, I don't know. I'll send you that video too. But dude, exactly.
About, the shape-shifting reptilians. I think.
Well, the dinosaurs, but
I think it's crazy that we had just had that thought on a previous podcast of dinosaurs have been on the planet for millions of years. Who's to say that they didn't evolve into conscious beings?
That's what I was getting into. So who's to deem that these gods that we're gonna call dragons, and we have a bunch of mythology about dragons, and we find fucking dinosaurs, and you know that dinosaurs are usually a fabrication. Like we find like a couple bones, and then we like reconstruct what we think what a dinosaur would look like. So, you know, we're going off of ancient reptile bones that we want to say that we think that the rest of the body looks like, which, you know, that's all up for speculation, but that's Quetzalcoatlus right there.
That's crazy that they named it Quetzalcoatlus. He looks like an overgrown pelican.
He's like the same size as a giraffe. But yeah, I mean that's what the drawing, you know, like we just found the bones, but think about that. Think about what a dragon structure is. The wings, the long neck, like think about fucking Shenron or something, like, you know, it's a long body, you know, that doesn't necessarily have to be the neck, like that's just what we're seeing in the depiction as a drawing, you know, like that's fucking mind blowing.
I don't understand why we're not allowed to leap to that conclusion. It makes sense. Makes perfect fucking sense.
The last of the dying breed, bro, and that's the whole thing with these knights. We have multiple depictions of knights taking out dinosaurs. That's like the main lore is like the knight takes down the dinosaur to get the princess from the castle. You know, like, and there's always depictions of it, like these fucking knights like stabbing these serpents and shit like that. It's like, what are you guys depicting? Like, were you guys fighting like big ass Komodo dragons that had wings, or like what was going on? You know, it was weird. But
or sea monsters too. That just makes total sense. Like a big ass old sea dinosaur.
What was Enki? You remember what we were talking about? He was an amphibian, or like amphibious, and Osiris and Kronos have share the same, you know, similarities when it comes to like the Egyptian mythology and Greek mythology. So like, you know, it's like it all ties into it. It's like fuck.
So they could either be humanoid or not humanoid.
Or like you said, advanced being. You know, like they could be speaking telepathically. I don't know, bro. You know, remember? Have you seen The Hobbit?
Yeah.
Remember that big ass dragon that was talking?
Bro, that fool. I saw that shit in theaters for the first time. When his voice kicks in, bro.
Ooh, I know.
Yo, that shit's bone chilling, bro. Imagine being face to face with that guy. He's like,
you die. But yeah, bro, I always love talking with you, dog. It's always fun. We changed our day for Monday. Sorry if you missed us last week. We got a couple coming out, though, you know. We're doing our thing.
I'll still drop it on Thursday, but we record on Monday now.
Yeah, but I mean, for us, it's a little bit different. Maybe not for you guys.
Yeah.
Next time, we might do Robert Schock. But I might, I'll probably send you something, too, just because I like this one, you know, and I had some points that, like, not even that I want to, like, interject, but, like, can, like, help, you know, just support even just a Graham's, you know, Graham's, like, hypothesis and shit like that.
I like his Amazon hypothesis, too.
What was that?
You heard his, if you watch his one of his more recent solo ones with Joe, they talk about the Amazon being an actual man-made construction, and there being an advanced civilization that's detected by LiDAR underneath the Amazon rainforest.
Dude, I remember, I think I seen a little, you know, like Joe Rogan clips or whatever. I seen that little, I seen that little part.
Yeah.
That fool, see, like, how are you even gonna, like, try to front on Graham, bro? He goes around the world and, like, does this, you know? Like,
he does this.
He's really out in the field, like,
dude,
you can't even...
that fool that came in on the fucking, the show and was talking shit on Graham's like, you're gonna go there 3 days and try to speak to it when someone for 20 years was there doing it? Shut the fuck up, bitch. Shut the fuck up.
That's 3 more days than you went, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, anyway, hindsight is 20/20. At the end of the day, this fucking science is magic, literally, and that's why we love it. You know, like this is it takes the unexplainable and tries to explain it, and that's like what we're trying to do with everything, you know, and all of our aspects, you know. So that's why hindsight is 20/20, because when we look back, everything was magic. You know, it's crazy.
Love y'all. Thank you.